So my story begins in Helensburgh. Growing up, had a good childhood, experienced, some of the things a lot of kids go through. Also had some of the negative things. Some of the negative things that stuck with me was the depression and the low self-esteem. I don't even really know what caused them. Like, you grow up and you just get these feelings and you just feel real down and real heavy. And you just don't know what it is, and then you try and talk to people to figure out what it is. And for me, I've always been a really curious person, so if something's going on in my mind, I'm going to ask someone about it and try and figure it out. And that was probably a lot of my journey through primary school and then into high school, was just struggling with them emotions and how to overcome them, which leads to low self-esteem. So with the low self-esteem, I'd always find myself comparing myself to other people, and I would find any reason to make someone else better than me. Even if I was good at something, like someone would give me a compliment and I would just brush it away and just, I could hear what they were saying was making sense, but I didn't feel it. I didn't feel that confidence and that happiness. So for me growing up, I always thought that, like a lot of my older friends, and from a guy's point of view, a lot of my older guy friends, they're all fit, muscly, ripped, and they always looked like they had the best time and the most fun. So I thought that was the answer. So I made it my mission to figure out how to do that, because growing up, I was a chubby kid. That was part of my low self-esteem and part of my depression. And over the years, I tried every single training program, every nutrition plan, you name it. And they just weren't quite working for me, because I was listening to other people, or I was training and doing nutrition with friends and trying to copy what they did, and just my metabolism and body was so different to theirs, and it wasn't working. So I went all to the full extent, did exercise science at Wollongong Uni, sitting in the third year lecture theatre, and the lecturer says, if you want to get the biggest transformations with your body, majority of it's done through nutrition, not the exercise. And I thought, well, what the hell am I doing sitting in the exercise science lecture theatre? So then I started focusing all of my attention on people who were experts in nutrition. And I would talk to them and I would pick their brain. I would ask them every question like you can imagine on what works and what doesn't. And filling my mind up with lots of theory. So I could, if anyone asked me any questions, I could give them the answer. Could I do it? Probably not so much. So that was a massive part of the journey. It wasn't until about 23, 24 where I got to the point where I finally figured it out. Like, I figured out what worked for me and my body. And it's different to how most other people did it. It was a lifelong goal to get the photos done, just to get ripped as possible, and just to have that, because that to me epitomised confidence and happiness. And then this strange thing happened, is I got to this point and I got the photos done, and then just after it, I just felt the most depressed and empty I'd ever felt. And I thought, what's going on here? Well, it's been my whole life mission trying to get my body to look a certain way to give me this feeling that I wanted, and it's not there. And I was just gutted, I was heartbroken in a way. I was just like, I put so much energy and effort into it, and it just wasn't working. So that sort of set off the next part of the journey. The next part of the journey was, okay, you can get yourself to look a certain way, but how do you get yourself to feel good as well? So that's the next part of it. So just backtrack a little bit through high school is when the anxiety started to creep in as well. Social anxiety in particular. I was the master of wearing different masks. So I would go out to social situations and people probably couldn't tell that I was not confident, or that I was feeling a bit shy and a bit awkward. But inside I was shitting myself. I was so scared. I didn't know what to say. I didn't know how to act. It wasn't a good place. And that carried on all the way through high school and into uni days, and even into party days, to the point where I used alcohol and drugs are fun at that time in your life, and that's all well and good, but there comes to a point where you can't sustain it, or you can't do that any longer, or you crash and burn, which is what happened to me. And you've got to learn to do it at some point in your life. You've got to learn how to overcome that anxiety, how to overcome them social situations, and how to be able to talk and connect to people. And so in doing all of that was when I finished uni. I bought a gym in Helensburgh up the road here behind where the timber yard is, and had it set up, was running the gym. Technically I was really good with clients, but business wise and emotionally I was terrible. So what happened was I couldn't motivate myself for longer than 6 months at a time. If I had a big weekend, I couldn't back up and recover. So what would happen is I'd turn up to work, and same with noticed when we turn up to this job, it's high energy. We've got to be higher than everyone else so we can give our good energy to everyone else. And when I was going out and partying on the weekends, my energy was, I was turning up level with everyone else or under. And that's not a good energy exchange, you know, it's not authentic coaching and training. So there was big problems going on there, you know, the alarm bells were going off. And it was still the same problem. I didn't know how to get rid of my anxiety. I didn't know how to get rid of the depression. I didn't know how to get rid of the low self-esteem. I was stuck with it. And I'd been to see counsellors, I'd been to see psychologists, I'd been to see life coaches, I'd been everywhere. I'd spent so much money and wasted so much time going to see these people who say that they could fix it. And like, it feels good when you're there talking to them, you have a good chat and they understand you and they explain things to you, but then you go back out into the real world and nothing really changed. So it just led to a lot of frustration, and that's what led to me, you know, having these massive weekends with alcohol and drugs. I was using them to regulate my moods and my emotions. If I couldn't feel good during the week, well, I'd make sure I put on the weekend. And anyway, this just got out of hand. This just got, one thing led to another. I ended up doing 18 months jail down in Victoria for drugs charges, at which point, you know, reality just sets in and you crash and you hit that rock bottom moment when you're sitting in there and, you know, it's just a cold concrete cell and you're there and you've got green clothes and you know, you just look at yourself and you think, how the hell did I end up here? You know, things were going so good in patches. Like, how could just not being able to understand my emotions, how did that lead to this? So you really start to reflect and question yourself and everything you've been through. And one thing that I noticed is that when you hit that rock bottom moment, when the depression and the anxiety and the fear is just like so intense, your mind surrenders, right? And by surrender, I don't mean give up. I just mean it stops trying and it just relaxes itself, and you become open to suggestions. You become open to learning. You become open to a new way of thinking. And while I was in there, I met this lady who was a teacher in there. She was teaching a small business course, and she was such a special lady because she chose to work in a male prison. She'd worked in politics, she'd worked in the corporate world, she'd built schools in Nepal, she'd done everything. And there was something inside her that said that she needed to be in that place. And the reason being is because in that place there's a lot of people at rock bottom. So when they're at rock bottom, their minds are open and they're willing to listen. And I was no exception to that rule. And she started giving me books on personal development, books on spirituality and life, books on the mind and emotions. And there was a couple of books in particular, A New Earth by Eckhart Tolle and The Power of Now by the same person. And these books kept talking about this thing in the brain. In every human's brain there's a thing called the ego. Now, the ego is not egotistical like most people think it is. The ego is just the part of the brain that creates negativity, chaos and drama, and it wants more and more and more. And it doesn't matter what you want more. It might be new clothes, new shoes, more money, more businesses, more house. It just wants more and more. And it's whatever it attaches to. If we don't get more of that, then that creates anger, that creates anxiety, that creates depression. So when I found this out, my mind was like, oh, okay, that's a bit of a relief because that means everyone's got it. Every single human being has it. That just means some of my friends and people I know are great actors. You know, I was just wearing my heart on my sleeve and I was admitting that I wasn't feeling right and I didn't know how to fix it. So that was the first part. The second part was when I was in there reflecting over my life and joining all the dots together, I had this moment where I realised that this holistic doctor years ago had taught me this process that would get rid of depression. Now, I didn't realise this same method would get rid of any negative emotion. This method, I changed it, quite a lot because I had to make it practical for me. I had to make it work for me, and I had to remember it because it was such a long time ago. So anyway, I started doing it, and I felt the emotion shift. I felt this like a heavy feeling, and then all of a sudden I felt light. And I'm like, okay, there's something in this. But I wanted to know, have I just made this up in my head or does this actually really work? So I saw my teacher the next day and we're sitting in the classroom there. And you can imagine it in a male prison, all the classrooms have got windows around them so that you can see in. So we're sitting there talking and I said to her, look, I've got these books you've given me to read. It talks about the ego and this pain body. I said, I reckon I know how to switch it off and release it out of your body. And she goes, how? I said, well, there's this method, and I reckon I can remember it, and I've changed it, and I reckon I can make it practical so that everyone can use it. She goes, well, try it on me. I said, but the thing is, you've got to do it with your eyes closed. And she goes, oh, I'll just try it anyway. So if you imagine like your imagination spot, so if you think of a blue house, and you can see that now, it's either in front of you or it might be behind you, wherever that is, that's your daydream spot, your imagination spot. So she would be talking to me, but she would focus on that spot. And that spot there connects to your subconscious mind. And I took her through this process, and the emotion released. And this emotion, she must have had it for like 40 or 50 years. And her eyes lit up. And I said to her, what do you think? She goes, Scotty, this is a game changer. She goes, this is going to change how everything's done. And I said, that's what I thought. That's what I know. She goes, you know what you've got to do now? And I said, yes. So I spent the next 9 months of my sentence going over my whole life, thinking of anything negative that may have happened to me and just releasing every single emotion that was attached to it. And I got to this point where I was lying in my cell and I was looking up at the ceiling, and I thought, wow, this is the first time in my life since I was 6 or 7 years old that I actually feel happy, relaxed and confident, and I had nothing. I had books, I had TV, I had the toilet in the same corner of the room I was sleeping. I literally had nothing, but I felt good. And I couldn't believe, that means this whole world's backwards. All these things that we're striving for don't actually make us happy. That's actually pleasure. So the whole world's convinced us that pleasure, which spikes up and spikes down, is actually happiness. It's not true. And then I wanted to take this feeling, because I'm the kind of person that when I learn something and it makes me feel good, I'm like, that's it, everyone's got to know about it. So that's why I'm here today, and I wanted to share with everyone the things that I've learned, because that was just the start of it. The second part that I learned was just that we have this thing in our subconscious mind, if you imagine it right here, and it's like the mind control. If you imagine a person sitting at a computer, and the computer would be your brain, the person sitting at the computer is the mind, right? So they're controlling the computer. Well, that's like your subconscious mind, and it's responsible for all your buttons and triggers. And as we all know, when someone pushes your button and it creates an emotion, it doesn't matter how good your thought process is, the emotion will always trump the thought. So the thought will never be able to get rid of the emotion. You can't convince yourself that you're feeling good when really you're feeling shit. That's for the majority of us. There's a very select few that have a very strong mind that can override it, but that is not the majority of us. So the majorities have to work through the emotion up. So that means working with the subconscious. So what that means is it's not actually mental health we're working with, it's emotional health. Right? So if we use the subconscious mind, we can control our emotional health. So that's what ties into resilience. And through this subconscious mind here, when we're relaxed and confident and in a good state, we can ask our subconscious mind any question, and it's like Google and YouTube. It'll either tell you the answer and you'll hear it, or you'll sense a strong yes or no, or in your daydream spot, you'll be shown a picture of the answer. And it's just that no one's ever taught us how to use this. Like for most of us, our parents don't know this and our teachers never taught us this. So how are we meant to know it? Unless we go through a series of events like I've been through, and then you hit the rock bottom and then you sort of tally all the things up that you've learned and go, oh, hang on a second, I reckon there's a bit of significance in this. And it's who's had a moment here where their gut was screaming to them the answer and they ignored it and then it stuffed up? Every single person, because it's human nature. It's never ever wrong. So if we can learn how to tap into this and get our answers from the subconscious, we're never ever wrong. And what I noticed from this point, once I tapped into this, suddenly I was confident. My whole life, I wasn't confident. And I tried all the thought processes, all the coaching, you name it, and I found the missing link. The missing link was the subconscious asking that to make decisions. Ever since I've been connected to that, I've been confident. It doesn't come and doesn't go, it's there all the time. To the point now where I believe a lot of people think confidence is skill related. So if you go to work and you're good at what you do, then you're confident while you're at work. But if you come home from work and you do something else that you believe you're not good at, then you'll feel unconfident. right? But that's not true confidence. Confidence is an emotion that we feel all the time. It's a baseline emotion. What we're talking about, what most people think is confidence, is just being good at a particular skill set. And if you want to get good at a particular skill set, practice it. Do it all the time. If you do something enough times and you enjoy doing it, you're going to be good at it, right? So there's the two different kinds of confidence. The third thing that I learned in that part of the process, so it was like life was good, and then I just got hammered with about a 5, 6, 7 year period where just one thing after the other just kept hammering. It was like I couldn't get a break. But after that rock bottom is when I got all my learning. So after pain comes realisation, becomes good feelings. So, and pain to me is just a lesson that we need to learn, and they were the lessons that I needed to learn. The first lesson was, connecting to this. The second lesson was learning how to communicate with it so it can make decisions for me. And then the third part is setting goals in every single area of life. So if you imagine your brain is dissected into 10 different spots, each area relates to a different part of your life. And most people only set goals in 3 or 4 of areas of life. Now what happens if you imagine you're juggling eggs and you've got 3 or 4 and you drop all 3 or 4, then they're all stuffed, right? So relate that to your goals. Imagine you've got 10 eggs and somehow you can magically juggle 10 eggs out of the blue, but you drop 3 or 4 on the ground. It doesn't matter so much because you've got another 6 or 7 to keep you going. So that's like goals. Goals don't have to be massive and spectacular in every single area of life. There just needs to be a goal. The goal could be to maintain what you're already doing. A lot of people already have goals in most areas of their life, but they haven't connected their mind to it, right? But once you connect your mind to it, it then connects an emotion to it. And then what happens is we can be at 10 places at once. In day-to-day life when we're normally feeling bored or unmotivated, suddenly we've got 10 areas of life we need to think about, and each area of life is making us happy. So we can use that to control and regulate our emotions as well. So the 3 things I want you to take away from this first part of the talk, 3 things that relate to resilience. Number 1 is that emotions can be transformed. Emotions can be transformed through the subconscious. That's number 1. Number 2, learn how to use your gut to make decisions. That's the second part. Not the brain, the gut. And not the gut like anxiety and depression. The gut is when the anxiety and depression has been released and you've got a nice relaxed gut. That feeling, that voice or that strong sensation that you get in there, learn how to use that. And the third part is set goals in every single area of life.